somebody forgot their bag and left a number. I should call him. Got the bag.
Oh, hello.
So Carlos, yeah, I brought you your bag.
Thank you so much for returning the bag. I have so many valuables inside.
Don't worry about it. It was just like on the bus station outside my door. I live right around the corner anyway, so it's no problem at all.
Would you like to come in? I was about to watch a movie.
Sure, why not? I got nothing else to do.
Thanks for the fun time. I hope we do it again.
Sure, Carlos, we can do this some other time. That was fun. See you soon.
Carlos, what the
So I saw Greta. And Greta is directed by Academy Award-winning director Neil Jordan, who got an Oscar for The Crying Game, and stars two of my absolute favorite actresses. I'm actually in love with these actresses, Chloe Grace Moretz and Micah Monroe, who we know from Carrie and It Follows. It is a story about a young girl who just moved to New York, working as a waitress, discovering a bag at the subway she's riding on, and it having a name written on it, and she returns this bag to the woman who owns it, and ends up being stalked by her right after that. It's a movie that basically follows traditional stalker films such as Fear with Mark Wahlberg and Reese Witherspoon in the 90s, or let's say The Crush with Alicia Silverstone. These 90s movies back then seemed like somewhat of psychotic Hallmark/Lifetime movies. And this is a film that tries to go into that general direction. And you have a really great cast here. You don't just have Chloe Grace Moretz and Micah Monroe, as I mentioned before. You have Isabel Huppert, who plays Greta. You have, as I mentioned before, an Oscar-winning director in this. And do you know what? This movie is utter trash! It is the most boring thing I have seen in a while. The person who was with me started screaming out of boredom in the middle of the screening. I hardly managed to make it. It made me physically angry. I wanted to puke, that's how awful it is. And the question is why? How can something with such a great team behind it be so miserable, so absolutely awful? Well, the director was going for something good. He tried to put some character into... He tried to put some depth into the characters. We've seen these actresses perform before. They are also amazing actresses, and their performances were actually really good here. The film even starts good. The premise is established very quickly, but then the pacing turns into this boring, god-awful mess. And what is the problem here, we are all asking ourselves. And after a lot of thinking, I noticed that the main problem in this thing was the script. And oh boy, this script has problems. The thing is, what made these movies in the 90s, these psychotic Lifetime movies, work so well in the 90s is that even though they were trashy in their own little way, each of these characters had depth. Each of these characters had certain motives that they followed, making you care for everyone in the film. Here, We don't know why Greta is a stalker at all. We also know that our main character, Frances, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, she lost her mother at some point and has like this torn relationship with her father. Why their relationship is screwed up, we don't know. How much she actually misses her mother, we really don't know either. Micah Monroe's character, what's her name again? Erica, is made to be this badass bitch because Chloe Grace Moretz is like this really timid, shy little valley girl who just moved to New York. But her badass bitchiness is somehow so pathetic. They're talking about wellness and she starts talking about asparagus getting shoved up your ass and something like that. It is like really bad. You're not buying any of this at all. And Chloe Grace Moretz and Micah Monroe, don't get me wrong, they're trying everything they can to make their characters work, but with the script that they are being given, it just falls totally flat. What else is a huge problem is that this old woman called Greta overpowering this young girl doesn't seem realistic. There are so many moments of the film where you could just see Frances, like seriously just giving Greta a kick in the legs or a punch in the tits that would just like get her away from this situation, but she doesn't. She is just so intimidated by her and it doesn't make any sense at all. Another scene in the movie is where Greta starts terrorizing Frances at her place of work and her boss doesn't even bother to take care of it. No boss in the world would just don't give a fuck about one of their employees having a serious stalker. Furthermore, the cops not giving a shit about this is also completely utter bullshit because stalking is something the police take very seriously at the moment, especially in our hashtag #MeToo ages. This movie is a complete and utter mess, and I don't think it's just the screenwriter that is to blame because Ray Wright and Neil Jordan have written things like The Crazies, which was pretty good. Okay, Case 39 was completely awful. Okay, so maybe yes, maybe the screenwriter should never work again ever in the history of movies because this was just a catastrophe. And but if we look a little further, well, let's look at the producers here. And when we look at the producers, we notice that it's just fucking 16 people! 16 people produced this! 16 people were telling the director and the screenwriter and the actress how they want this movie to look like. And I'm sorry, this is the typical problem of most high-budget horror movies. There is just like too many people talking into the movie and trying to make it be their own vision. When 16 people are trying to make a movie be one single thing, it can't be anything else other than a huge fucking disaster. Because when 16 people are trying to make one thing and every person has their own vision and how this thing is supposed to look like, it looks like nothing anybody wants. It looks like nothing each of these producers wants. It looks like nothing that the actors want. It looks like nothing that the director wants. It looks like nothing that the screenwriter wants. So, this is one of those, I would even go so far and say Slender Man catastrophes. Okay, it's not as bad as Slender Man because the premise actually works and the cast is actually giving it their all. I actually had very high expectations for this. Look at me. Look how happy I was back then.
Okay, I want to see this now. This is how hyped the trailer has been getting me. I am really looking forward to this. Like, I'm expecting a lot from this. This looks like it's going to be really good. And I'm loving how they are building everything up to this point of what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, poor little void in the past got disappointed. Well, to sum it all up together, this was the shittiest film of the year so far, hasn't been a long year, I'm sure. Somewhere in 2019, we will find something shittier. But no, this is awful. Like, if you can manage to stay away from this, stay the fuck away from this. That's how bad it is. Okay. Sorry that this is such a sad, upsetting review. But we hope to see new, fresh and good films soon. Next up is Climax by Gustav.
Just try to get rid of Greta.